Hey, we're going to work on creating a couple sample logos today. The first one, we're going to use a template from a document to trace out an apple and turn that into a logo. And then the second one, we will make a custom logo for the junior high. So I'm going to start the first one in Google Classroom and find the apple.pdf file that's been shared. So I will click on the apple.pdf file, come up to the right hand side where I have the More Actions menu, choose Open in a new window, and then click on my download button. With that downloaded, I can go to Adobe Illustrator and create a new letter size piece of paper. Let's go to File and choose Place, and make sure you're under this PC and Downloads, and you should see apple.pdf. So select apple.pdf and click on Place. Come up to the top left hand corner of your page and click. Once you have that where you want it, and you can move it around, simply click into the pasteboard area to deselect it. Come over to your Layers panel and click next to the eyeball to lock that layer. You're going to notice that if I try to come over and do anything with this layer, I get this pencil with a not sign next to it, meaning that I cannot edit it. We're going to lock that in place so that we can work on top of it. So in order for us to draw, we need to come down to the New Layer button to create a new layer. Now I can create. You're going to notice we have the finished apple with the shapes to trace next to it. Now I could create all of these with the pen tool, but let's use a couple shapes that are going to make this a little bit easier. Come over to your shape tool, which may be set to the rectangle tool, fly that out and choose the ellipse tool. Holding down your shift key, click and drag to draw a circle. Now don't worry if the circle's not perfectly on top of the template. Try and get it to about the same size. We can always resize it later. Double click on your fill and set that to be red. While my stroke is already set to black, it's not nearly as thick as the stroke on my apple. So select Properties on the right and choose the drop down next to stroke, and let's choose about 7 points to make that match. Using my black arrow pointer, I can move this circle over the other piece. I can scale it. Now if you scale it up and down, hold down your shift key to keep the height and width equal. Now let's draw these two lines, which I could do with the pen tool, but we have a line tool over here, so let's make use of that. Choosing the line tool, I will click on the first point and drag to the second point. Since my stroke was already set to 7 points, that will work perfectly. And let's do this other line here. Now for the last two pieces, I will need my pen tool. So either by pressing P on my keyboard or clicking on the pen tool, let's work over here. To get a little closer to my work, I'll hit Control+ on my keyboard. To make this little curve where the stem comes into the apple, I'm going to click on the first point and then click and drag on the second point. I'm going to click on my black arrow pointer, have that finish my path. The last piece is the leaf. The leaf is a little bit different because not only is there a curve and a point on each end, you're going to see that it comes down from a sharp point here. So I'm going to start with my pen tool. I'm going to click on the bottom point, come up to my top point and click and drag. Now, as long as my mouse button is down, I can turn this handlebar however I want. So I'm going to turn that handlebar to make it match the left-hand side. Now, if I were to come back to my first point, you'll see that that doesn't match up on the other side. Control Z will undo that last click. In order to start this off at a point, I need to come back to the point that I just drew and click on it to eliminate the left or the handlebar coming out of the right. Come down to the bottom point and then click and drag to make that point. If I want to make any adjustments to what I just drew, I can choose the white arrow pointer. I can click on these handlebars and make adjustments back and forth. Alright, with that selected, I want to choose a green for my fill. Now, if I don't want to have to guess what the green is, I can grab my dropper tool and simply come over and click on the green and it will choose that. Now, it set my stroke back to none, so let's set that to black. And let's increase that to 7. With all of the pieces of my apple, Control minus zooming out here. All the pieces of my apple done, let's construct it. With my black arrow pointer, we'll take the stem and put it together. And let's put the leaf off to the side. And you're going to notice that my leaf is above my apple because the layer order of my drawings go in the order that I drew them. So since I drew the apple first and the leaf at the end, it's going to put the leaf on top. To fix that, I'm going to right click on my leaf, go to Arrange, and say Send to Back. With all the pieces of my apple now assembled, I'm going to click on my Layers tab and hide that first layer. Using my black arrow pointer, I will click and drag to select all the elements of my apple. Control G will group them together. Now I'm ready to add some text. I'm going to use a circle tool to draw a circle a little bit bigger than my apple. I'm not going to worry about the size of, the fill, just the size. If I want to see that a little bit better, I can get rid of the fill by clicking on the fill and choosing None right below it. Let's move that over where we want it to be and see if that's the right size. Perfect. Come down to your Type tool, press and hold to fly it out, select Type on a path, and then come over to your circle that you just created and click right on the edge of it. When you get that text, we're going to type Apple Orchard. Control A will select all my text. And now on the Properties tab, I can choose a different font. I can make the font size bigger. That looks good. And by using my black arrow pointer, I can rotate that circle that the text is on, and I can rotate my group. Maybe we're going to turn this a little bit. You'll notice that once I put type on a shape, the shape itself no longer has a fill and a stroke. And there you have it. There's our first sample logo.